The topics discussed in this show may be triggering or harmful for some listeners. We tackle topics of suicide, self-harm, violence, child abuse, and death. Our hope is that even if you aren't able to listen to the whole story, that you can join us for the first 15 to 30 minutes where we catch up and gossip about our lives and the world. We will be intentional on marking where triggering information may be, as well as having timestamps in our episode descriptions for those topics. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to The Best Friend's Guide to Money and Murder. I'm Claire, and that's Caroline with a new microphone.
Hey, how's it going? I hope I sound mwah. How was your week, ma'am?
My week was busy. I got pulled for my COVID vax, which was really exciting.
Sexy. Claire is drinking a drink. What are you drinking, my darling?
I am finishing up a margarita,
Good.
but is about to switch to some white wine.
Good.
Yes.
That doesn't make your tummy hurt after, like, different drinks? Or am I old?
You're old. We talked about this last time, but you're old.
Did we? Oh, God.
I think we did. It might have gotten cut.
My memory is fading.
Mine too. Fun fact. So I got ahead of the curve. And I started these notes like a while ago because I thought I was going to do them sooner than I have. But then I lost interest and then finished these notes like a week and a half ago, maybe.
Okay, listen.
But I don't remember my story, to be quite honest.
Oh, this is going to be a ride for both you and me, my sweet little friend.
Like, I know the general premise of it, but I don't remember all the things I learned.
I love the chaotic energy we continue to bring.
Do you have anything fun you're drinking?
I'm just drinking a little sody pop from McDonald's. Eric and I did a lot of adult things today. We went to Micro Center and got this really awesome, cheaper microphone to test out. I have finally felt the want and excitement of wanting to clean my house.
Wow.
Every couple months. And we went to the store too. So I cleaned out my fridge and my freezer and my pantry.
Wow.
And fun fact, don't know if you knew this, I sure didn't. You can get Resolve, the carpet cleaner, and you can use it to deep clean your carpets and not just for like cleaning dog shit.
Oh.
So you spray it and then you let it dry and then you vacuum her up.
That's awesome.
Awesome. And it makes your house smell awesome. So I did that to every carpet in our house before we left for the stores. I came home and I just went room by room and vacuumed and picked up. There still feels like a lot to do. If dishes could just do themselves, then I would be mentally well.
So I asked Taylor this like maybe last week or something.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't have to either drive or if you didn't have to cook, you only could do those things when you wanted to. So you either could transport yourself or teleport yourself or have food appear, basically.
Mm-hmm.
What would you pick?
Food.
Really?
Yes.
I would pick driving.
Good for you.
There's times where I just can't handle driving.
It's okay.
I think it's because I have an old person body and my knees hurt.
It's all right. I'd like food to appear because I'm bad at eating during the day when I'm working a bunch.
Oh, yeah.
And it's hard for me to figure out what I want when I know I need to eat. So having the food just appear would be very beneficial for me.
And no dishes.
That would just... I love the thought of no dishes so much. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching TikTok, as one does, every single day. Someone had a cool, like, life hack, which...
Are we hacking life?
We're hacking life, honey. So they were like, this is how I... First of all, my makeup is going literally nuts. They're like, this is how I prep for a week of dinners. And I'm like, okay, who is this bitch? Honestly, who is cooking 5 days, to 7 days a week. It sounds exhausting. I am a depressed bitch, so I cannot. I can't cook every day. Leave me alone. That came from a deep, dark place. Anyway, so she was like, what I do is I put all of the non-perishable food in a container for each day. So I plan out my meals on Sunday for the next week. And these are the ingredients that I need. And I just know what I'm gonna eat the rest for the rest of the week. And half the stuff is already on the counter, sectioned off, ready to go, ready for me to cook when I get home.
Wow.
And I was like, excuse me, we can do that? So that changed my life.
Yeah.
Today. So Eric and I just like asked Eric what he wanted for the week. And so we came up, and from there, like, it's like all the stuff I know how to make.
Yeah.
So from there, I wrote down a list of all the things that I need. And then I cleaned out my kitchen, and then we went to the store, and then I left all the stuff that I'm going to cook with on the counter that it doesn't need to be refrigerated. So we're going to see how this goes. I'll let you know. And I'm excited to cook. I've got a story for you today.
Yeah.
I hope you're excited.
I'm ready to buckle in and
Buckle in, because I'm going to be talking about the Slender Man murders. Are you ready? Have you heard of this?
I have, because
Okay, good.
I think I'm only a couple years older than the girls, like maybe 2 or 3. Like,
Yes.
Like I was maybe like 15 when this all went down.
Yep. And then you would be 3 years older than them. Okay, so picture this, which you kind of already did.
But I'm still excited to hear you tell me about it.
Thank you. Okay, picture this. It's 2014.
I'm 15 or 16, as we just mentioned.
But at this point, you're 12. Put your mindset of a 12-year-old with access to the internet in 2014.
Oh.
That stresses me out. I'm 3 years older than you.
Yeah.
So I graduated high school in 2014. So your girl was like 18.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. Anyway.
Like, I was on the cusp of when, like, growing up with the internet was, like, a true thing. Like, I was a little behind, like, all social media stuff, but, like, had, like, webcams and, like, kind of online, like, playing online. Yeah.
Good for you. Wow. Who
But
knew we had a gamer in our midst?
Catch me on webkins, streaming on Twitch.
Oh, shit, bitch. What the fuck? I'm trying to tell a spooky story. This is not spooky.
I'll stop talking about webkins.
Oh no. Okay. Oh god. Okay. Well, one day we'll talk about webkins, because Joan didn't let me use them. Anyway. Okay. So you're 12 years old with unlimited access to the internet in 2014.
I probably would have still been on webkins.
Relatable as fuck. Okay, so you are on the internet. You stumble across a creepypasta. Which you don't know what that means or what that is, but you see a picture of a featureless man with a white face. Again, no features.
No.
In a black suit, standing in a forest with tentacles growing out of his back.
Tentacles growing out of his back? I did not know that was a part of this.
Yep.
Absolutely not.
And you see this, and you're like, what the fuck? But you're 12, so what the crap is what you say. And below the picture is a caption. It's weird. It looks real, but you're unsure because it's the internet. You are 12, so you know a little bit about, like, the internet being weird, but you're just unsure. And the caption says, "We didn't want to go. We didn't want to kill them. But its persistent silence and outstretched arms horrified and comforted us at the same time. 1983, photographer unknown, presumed dead."
Ooh. Icky.
Icky. You see another photo. Similar guy in a forest. But the caption says, one of 2 recovered photographs from the Sterling City Library blaze, notable for being taken the day which 14 children vanished, and for what is referred to as the Slender Man. Deformities cited as film defects by officials. Fire at library occurred 1 week later. Actual photograph confiscated as evidence. 1986 photographer Mary Thomas missing since June 13th, 1986.
Spooky.
So you see this as a 12-year-old and you're like, okay, like literally, like what is this?
Yeah.
And as a cool, who you think you're cool, you start looking into it and you start researching and you become like, you know, any 12-year-old with anything they like, they become obsessed with it.
Mm-hmm. I personally chose the One Direction route when I was 12.
I just chose music. So you become obsessed with it to the point until it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
And the thought of this man takes over your every thought, your every feeling, and you and your best friend kill your other friend in the middle of the woods in a bathroom.
Oh.
So so our characters in the story, true life, are Anissa Weiler and Morgan Geyser.
Okay.
2 best friends. I believe they've grown up together. Friends, family and friend, like their families are friends, things like that. They make a new friend. Her name is Peyton Lutner, and they're classmates, enroll in the same school. Anissa and Morgan befriend Peyton, and they all are like just best pals. Morgan Geyser is the one who, through a lot of just research and evidence, is the one who became obsessed with Slender Man.
Okay.
Just her and Anissa being friends, they talked a lot about it and became, again, obsessed with it, and it fueled every waking moment of their thoughts. I'm sure they had nightmares, bad dreams, just things like that. When things feel real, they are real to the person whose reality that is. And so I'm sure it's tough because the 12-year-old brain is so moldable still.
Mm-hmm.
But this makes sense. And it's fun. It starts out fun, like, oh, it's spooky, like this guy is like scary and gross and and so it's fun because like you are bonding with your friend. But then it can get not fun very quickly. It comes to the point where they're convinced that they have to kill someone, in this case, Peyton, in order to save their families. Morgan is said to have said that she's seen him when she's on the bus and that they know where he is. She had told Morgan had said, we have to kill, they call Peyton Bella. That was just their nickname for her.
Okay.
We have to kill Bella. And Morgan had said how she had found that Slender Man has this big mansion in the middle of Nicollet National Park. Now, this is all happening in Wisconsin. For 6 months, these children develop a plan to kill their best friend. Now it's important to know, where the actual fuck is this Slender Man guy from?
Yeah.
Right? So, going back to earlier, it's from a creepypasta. So for those who don't know what a creepypasta is, it's basically like, kind of like in the name, it's just like a creepy thing.
Yeah.
That has no origin, so to speak. But we do know where the Slender Man originated from. So, in 2009, there was a something awful forum where this creepypasta was created by a user named Eric Knudsen. This character was inspired by a bunch of different types of media. So folklore, fairies, there's like things of H.P. Lovecraft. Is that his name? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just all of those things combined together to depict Slender Man as who he is. Other, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, there's an episode called Hush where there's pale bald demons. There's comic superhero with a blank face, whose secret identity is Victor Sage. Things from Resident Evil, all of these things to promote this. So in any especially early stories of Slender Man, it's depicted as him targeting children or young adults. Some are driven insane or act on his behalf. Others claim that investigating the Slender Man will draw his attention. Marble Hornets really establishes that idea of if you're looking, he gonna find you, and also really established helped the idea of the fact that Slender Man can affect technology. So it's really fucking spooky. And if you're 12 with a multiple brain, you're gonna think that shit's kind of real, and you're gonna have nightmares. And if left untreated, I could see it going this way, really and truly.
Mm-hmm.
So they are afraid that their family is going to get murdered by this very creepy ass looking guy. And so they are convinced that killing Peyton in the name of Slender Man will save their family. They plan to kill Peyton on the night of May 30th, 2014. They had a sleepover that night. However, they got tired, so they didn't. Relatable.
I was gonna say, I was like, you and me?
Yeah, because I'm not gonna fucking kill you. Okay, so the girls had thought of 3 different ways to kill their friend. This is so morbid.
Yeah.
These are so fucking weird. Okay, anyway. So the morning comes and they wake up, they get dressed, they start playing. So they start playing just like 12-year-old girls do, just fucking around. And then while Peyton gets ready, dress up, the girls devise this plan that they are going to, or Morgan suggests killing her in the bathroom stall at a park where there was a drain for the blood. Now, here's the deal. If this were any other circumstance and this kid was just fucking around, her and I would get along pretty well.
Yeah.
But anyway, literally not now, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Anissa, when talking to police, also added that Morgan had taken the knife from her kitchen, even though Morgan claimed it was Anissa that took the knife. They go to the park. They suggested playing a game of hide and seek, and so Morgan counts and the other 2 girls hide. Anissa says she was going to hide at one place and I was going to hide in the other, and then Morgan and I were going to be like Linus chasing down a zebra. I was going to tackle her, and then Morgan was going to do the stabbing. I started walking away, and then I was 5 feet away. I said, now. I'm like, go ballistic, go crazy, make sure she's down. Morgan had said, I already told you, stab, 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 stab. It was weird. I felt no remorse. I thought I would. I actually felt nothing.
Oh.
So like I said, they were going to, I had said earlier that they killed her in the bathroom. Untrue. They were going to, but they kind of they chickened out. And they left the bathroom. So then once they left the bathroom, they decided to go into the woods, and that's when they suggested the game of hide and seek in the woods. And this is what Joan Kane never let me go into the woods. Now we're learning why.
Yes.
Thank you, Mother. So they stab her a bunch of times. So they were hoping to knock her out before they tried to kill her, because Anissa had read on the computer it was easier to kill people while they're asleep or unconscious, and it's also easier for you not to look in their eyes. Like I said, these children had unlimited access to the internet.
Yeah, they were able to, Google how to kill someone.
I know. The last thing Peyton had said to Morgan was, I trusted you.
Oh, God.
Then I hate you. And then Morgan said, we lied to her. Anissa said that she'd go get help. Morgan had stabbed Peyton 19 times.
Oh.
Anissa had said to Peyton to lay down and be quiet. You'll lose blood slower. Peyton had tried to get up. Said she couldn't see, she couldn't walk, she couldn't breathe. They told her that they were going to get her help. No, they weren't going to get her help. They wanted her to die.
Oh.
a bicyclist found her and called the police.
Good.
And she's alive.
I knew she made it out okay, which is the only reason why I'm okay. Like,
she fucking survived.
19 stabs?
She was in 6th grade and survived 19 stab wounds. She wasn't moving a whole lot. Officer Dan Klein was the first to respond after that bicyclist had found her at the end of a dead-end road. Oh, it's so scary. She was brought to the emergency room. She had said that her best friend Morgan had attacked her in the woods. The officer was like, "Are you okay?" And I would have been like, "Bitch, do I fucking look okay?" She said no. So originally they only thought there was one girl, Morgan, because that's all Peyton had said because she was fucking bleeding out. And no, sir, I'm not fucking that poor baby. So the other officers like trying to get as much information as possible. They learn there's another girl. They go to Morgan's home and speak to her mom, and they discover that the girls had a sleepover the night before with Anissa, but neither girl were back at home.
Okay.
So at this point, they were looking for two other missing teenage girls. And they thought those girls were in danger. But just before 3 p.m. that day, they were found sitting on the side of a freeway. They had walked about 5 hours. The other officer, Trusoni, had said that they were just kind of dirty. They seemed kind of meek, if you will, and really calm. So they were interrogated by police in separate rooms. And they distinctly remember Morgan being very calm, even though she was covered in blood. Morgan asked the officer, "Is Bella dead? Is she dead? I was just wondering," quote unquote.
As she was covered in her blood?
Yeah. So the officer interviewing her mentions that he didn't really seem to see, like, Morgan didn't show any concern. It was just like a wonder. And then Morgan says, "I might as well say it. We were trying to kill her." She had explained that they had attempted the murder to appease whoever Anissa was talking about. She made it seem necessary. This is going to get me arrested, isn't it? And Morgan admits that she didn't really think about what would happen after stabbing Peyton.
Oh.
She said she'd figured she'd get in trouble eventually, though, because Mommy always said that whatever you do catches up to you eventually, and it did. So it was, Detective Michelle Trusoni. So that's probably why she was part of the interview process. Morgan had continued to say, "Anissa told me we had to because she said he'd kill our families. A man, I don't know him, but Anissa knew him," blaming it all on Anissa. Anissa explains that she learned about the Slender Man on a website that collects horror stories. And then she goes into who Slender Man was, explaining them to the officers. Anissa says, "I actually thought that he was real because I saw him." Okay, so I was wrong. It was Anissa, not Morgan, that said earlier. She said, "We were like talking or on the bus. I look out the window and I see this thing standing like this with tendrils. It looks exactly like a tree, there and gone like that. I was really scared knowing that Slender Man could easily kill my whole family in 3 seconds." But Anissa told police that Morgan was the one who said, "We need to kill Bella," and that it was Morgan who found out that Slender Man has this big mansion in the middle of Nicollet National Park. Their girls told the police that their plan was to walk to the mansion to be with Slender Man after the killing. And it wasn't until, and Morgan had said, "I didn't really understand what we were doing, but I really didn't want to make Anissa mad. It's hard enough to make friends. I don't want to lose someone over something like this." Morgan had also said how you have no idea how difficult it was to not tell anyone. We all would all be together. It was a flawless plan, actually. They used code words like for knife, they would use cracker. For killing, they would use words like itch. One of the people interviewing the children was like, there was a lot of deception. In Morgan's interview, it seems like Anissa was saying what was actually happening, and Morgan would always say is, "Well, I think Anissa did it. I think this happened." Investigators, after the, good old investigating, had uncovered notebooks with writings and drawings related to Slender Man in Morgan's locker. In her bedroom, another police officer hired by Morgan's legal team found drawings of Slender Man and mutilated dolls that had their hands cut off, arms cut off, and legs cut off.
Ooh.
They also found an email Morgan had sent to Anissa saying to remember to clean out your browser history.
Oh, I mean, that's so sad that they were so aware.
They're so smart. And looking through her home computer, there were thousands of internet searches that were done. How to get away with murder?
Oh.
What kind of insane am I? She was searching these images ahead of time. So they really figured out that it really was Morgan. Unfortunately, that was what they consider the ringleader of this unfortunate attempted murder. Peyton was stabbed in the chest, in the abdomen, arm, and leg, like how the arms, the legs, and the hands were cut off of her dolls. I'm just putting that together. 5 wounds on her arm, 7 on her leg, and the rest scattered throughout her torso. She was in intensive care for weeks and came through with 25 resulting scars. The parents just say how much of a nightmare this was. Anissa's mom said, "We were permitted to come to the police station and see Anissa. I remember her saying she was very, very scared. That day plays out almost every night in my nightmares."
Oh.
And it was at Morgan's house they were at before they went to the park. Morgan's mom let them go to the park because it was harmless. The girls are obviously go to court for this.
I remember seeing pictures of them in court, in magazines and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, because we would just read People magazine in my house. My mom would get it, and then I would read it, and my other sisters would.
Yeah, and so both girls were charged with attempted murder. I do believe that they were charged technically as adults. However, with the Waukesha County Circuit Court, Anissa has been spending most of her time in the Winnebago Mental Health Institute after the jury found her not criminally responsible due to mental disease in the stabbing. She received the maximum sentence in December of 2017 after more than 3 years of mental evaluations, failed attempts to get the case moved to juvenile court, and after she pleaded to attempted second-degree intentional homicide. And I know it sounds like as of March 4th, 2021. On March 10th, she is seeking her conditional release into the community. There would be a lot of conditions to her release, obviously, and that would be part of that would be working with a social worker, things like that. She would be monitored until she was almost in her 40s, the length of her commitment to the mental hospital. She has been diagnosed from a persistent depressive disorder, and so Anissa suffers from a shared delusional disorder due to her involvement with Morgan. So this is a really interesting thing. Now, they have figured out that Morgan, at the age of 12, had undiagnosed schizophrenia. How can you be undiagnosed with schizophrenia? Blah, 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 blah. Here's how. They do not like to diagnose children with schizophrenia because you need to have very specific things, which I've gone over before. And with children, you can really have other disorders that can fit that mold more often than not better. Interesting enough, Morgan's father has been diagnosed with schizophrenia. And that is something that can be passed down, which is really interesting to think about. And a lot of things can be passed down, and there's a lot with genetics, and there's a lot with trauma that your parents experienced before you were born. All of those things can encapsulate into who you are as a person. It's just unfortunate that she was misdiagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
And if we think about a child who has schizophrenia, and they learn about this very scary man on the internet, and their brain is moldable, all of that is a hot soup mixture of just, I don't know, it just makes sense, unfortunately, and it's really sad.
Yeah.
It doesn't make what she did okay at all, but it explains why she did it.
Yeah.
So shared delusional disorder. It's what an interesting thing.
Is that something you see a lot with like cults?
I think so.
Okay.
So this occurs when there is a delusional belief held by one person, the primary, becomes shared by the other, the secondary, or several other people associated with that person. Again, impressionable little babies.
Yeah.
You got one with schizophrenia and one who just wants to have a buddy.
What happened to Morgan?
She was given the max of 40 years at a mental health facility. She worked out a plea agreement where she avoided trial and pleaded guilty to attempted first-degree intentional homicide, but that her mental illness was the cause. So Morgan's plea allows her to petition for a conditional release every 6 months. She has not done so. Obviously, Anissa is trying to work on being able to try and get out on a conditional release.
The crazy part is, you know, they're what, like 18, 19 now?
Yeah, so in October of 2019, around that time, ABC comes out with a 2020. In 2019, Peyton is 17 years old. 20 years old.
Oh
my goodness. And she talks about it. I haven't been able to watch it, but she talks about it. She says she accepts the scars she now carries, both physical and psychological, saying, "It's just part of me. I don't think much of them. They will probably go away and fade eventually, but the memory of that horrific attack will never fade." And that's the story of how Peyton survived being stabbed by her two best friends who believed Slender Man was going to kill their family.
It's such a sad story.
It's really sad. And obviously there's always a question of where were their parents and things like that. And I mean, obviously there's some accountability.
Yeah.
You have to trust that you're teaching your kids how to be good people, and you're having to trust that you're showing your children that you're hopefully a good parent. I mean, if you're a shitty parent, then like your kid's gonna know. But I don't want to believe that these were shitty parents. I have no facts to prove that they were shitty parents.
I mean, I think it ultimately does boil down to, you know, they were young and had multiple minds, and there was a lot of mental health things at play, which doesn't excuse it, but it does explain what was happening.
And again, you can only protect your children so much and hope that they come to you for things that are scary, things that feel weird. But they're not trying to because they're 12.
Yeah, and like, how could Morgan's mom know not to send him to the park that day, you know?
Especially when they go I'm sure they went all the time.
Yeah.
She had no reason to believe her daughter was any other way, really.
Yeah.
And it's just so sad because you know that they will feel that. All of those parents, all those sets of parents are going to feel that the rest of their life. And it's so sad. They could do differently. And there's really nothing they could have done.
Yeah. And it also plays into the bigger question of like the internet and social media, of course. And
the argument of what should kids be allowed on? How much control should you have of your child's internet access? All like that's a hot button debate. And I mean, it does show all of like that is a really good example of the dangers of giving children access. But there's a difference between giving your children access and blah blah blah, and your child having access but you explaining things to them and you creating a space which takes years to do, but creating a space where once they get into these scary things they feel comfortable telling you.
Yeah, but again, I don't want to think people think we're like parent blaming.
Oh no. No, it's sad that
the parents had no reason to believe that the kids weren't on webcams.
What the fuck? They're 12!
They're 12! They should be on webcams.
12 years old! They were playing dress up, okay? I'm sorry, but if my girl plays dress up or my boy plays dress up, I'm not gonna think they're gonna go to the park later and try and murder their best friend. I'm just not going to.
I'm gonna think that they're on the internet playing virtual paper dolls, because that's also what I did on the internet.
Yeah, and I'm sure I remember watching something about like I feel like she's mentioned Slender Man to her parents, and they were just like, "Oh, well, that's like really scary. Like, you should stop." Like, she talked to them a little bit about it, and they were like, "Baby, that's not real. Like, you don't need to worry about that." So, good parenting.
Yeah.
You can't control. You can only control your children so much. Also, they're 12, and so, and you love them, and always think the best of them, and so. You're not gonna think they're gonna try and kill their best friend. Hello. And they're gonna keep it from you because they don't want you to die. I refuse to parent shame.
Yeah,
In
no.
this instance, I'll parent shame if you're a shitty ass parent looking at you bloody benders. But
thinking about the kids having the mental capacity to Google, like, think about like using a bathroom or for the site and like Googling those things, and
that's sketchy shit.
yeah.
The question of am I insane? Oh baby. Oh,
Yeah.
that breaks my heart because it's like, it's that question of if you have to ask, you already know. And I'm not saying, I mean, she actually is qualified to be insane, unfortunately. That's kind of what people label schizophrenia as, is being insane. I don't know. It's just, it sucks all around. Those children, obviously, now they're not children anymore, but they needed to be.
But still, like, barely, I mean, they're barely adults.
Yeah, I know.
God, I would not call 18-year-old me adult.
Absolutely not.
And that's coming from me as a 22-year-old.
Well, it's like, I'm glad they're in a facility.
Yeah.
Because that's what's needed.
And it's good that Morgan, like, it shows some self-awareness that she has not petitioned to be released, and she has the option twice a year to petition for her release.
Yeah, there's just a lot of trauma work on all sides of this triangle too that needs to be worked out. I would help her because she participated in such a bad event. She spent half of her life working in an institution to problem solve, process, come to terms, see the consequences, all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of this conditional release, and she's going to have to, it looks like she would have to have that, like, all of that, like, conditions until she's 37.
Wow.
And so, like, it would be helping her become a functioning member of society, helping her figure out things, continuing to make sure she's maintaining medication, therapeutic services, case management services that are therapeutic, all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And she'd probably have like a, I don't know, like a monitor or something like that, like a body monitor of some kind. She's asked to be released from the Winnebago Mental Health Institute. She was sentenced in December 2017 to 25 years. And this has submitted a letter to the judge. She writes that she's sorry for the pain she's caused, but she's learned to forgive herself. I vowed after my crime that I would never become a weapon again, and I intend to keep that vow. I hate my actions on the day of the attack, but through countless hours of therapy, I no longer hate myself for them. By petitioning the court for conditional release, I am not saying I am done with my treatment. I am saying that I have exhausted all the resources available to me at the Winnebago Mental Health Institute. If I am to become a productive member of society,
wow,
I need to be a part of society.
Yeah.
She hopes to get some form of higher education and would comply with any conditions the judge might impose on her. She said, I want to reiterate, I am not saying that I'm done growing, changing, evolving, or adapting. I just can't do it here anymore.
Honestly, good for her. Like,
that's hard to say.
I don't have better words, but that does show, at least in my eyes, change.
I think so. And if we take this at face value, she's right. She needs to learn how to be in society to be able to function as a productive member of society. And and she can't do that if she's in an institution. And I can see how, again, at face value, again, we don't know everything, how she would feel like she's exhausted all of the resources at like an institution, because there is only so much they can provide. And if you've gone through it, then I could see how you would feel like you can't like do it anymore. Like you've done it for 5 years. It'd be
And
really
especially 5 very formative years of your growth.
right. Like you can only talk to like the same therapist, same couple therapists, things like that for so long. And an institute might not have all the services that you could benefit from, or there's different institutions that provide different things. And that's the story.
All right, so I wish I could kind of lighten the mood a little bit, but unfortunately, my story is not like a super lighthearted one, actually. I'm actually telling you the story of Howard Hughes and the Howard Hughes autobiography.
Howard Hughes.
Yes.
I know that name.
He's done a lot of stuff, and I will get into that.
God bless. Okay, go ahead.
So, as I say in my notes, let's start with who is Howard Hughes? Let's get to know him.
Please help me.
Howard Hughes Jr. was born December 24th in 1905 in Houston, Texas. So, a Christmas Eve baby.
Oh my God, fun!
Also, there's a few places that contest that is his actual birth date, because his baptism certificate from Iowa lists that his date of birth is September 24th, 1905, so 2 months earlier. 3 months earlier. His aunt signed an affidavit confirming that he was born on December 24th. He was a businessman, investor, pilot, engineer, philanthropist, and filmmaker. A busy boy. In terms of his film career, he was primarily a producer. On IMDb, it lists that he produced 26 films, and a large number of those films he was not credited as a producer on, but it was later revealed that he was, so that kind of leads me to believe that he was the money guy for it. Like, he financed all the films.
Oh.
He also directed 2 films, the 1930 film Hell's Angels and The Outlaws in 1943. So that was kind of what he did in the film world.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of his aviation career, that's where he kind of saw a lot of success. During the 1930s, he spent a lot of time setting airspeed records. During that time, he built an aircraft that held the record for the largest wingspan of any aircraft. And he held that record until 2019, actually. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So growing up, he was a part of a family that was a very wealthy family. And not that I couldn't find it, I couldn't really understand it. His dad was an inventor that patented some type of oil drilling technology.
Right.
And that is how they got their money. So it was kind of in the oil money type of realm.
That's the money. That's the no joke money. Why couldn't I be that? Why couldn't my family find oil somewhere?
I know, right?
Come on.
So he was also a descendant of John Gano, who was the minister that allegedly baptized George Washington.
That's a fun fact.
That is such a fun fact. I didn't qualify it with fun fact, but it is. So both of his parents passed away by 1924. So he was 18 when he inherited 75% of his family fortune. I gave you kind of a brief preview of some of the subjects I would be touching on because I did need your social work brain on a lot of these.
Awesome.
So on his 19th birthday, he was declared an emancipated minor, which I can't figure out. The only thing I could figure out is maybe if his family put his money into a trust that he couldn't access until he was, say, like in his 20s, that gave him access to the trust. That's the only thing I could figure out. Maybe. Okay, I'm glad it's...
He wanted to be... He was thought of as an emancipated minor?
Yeah.
Was the minor age higher when in the 1930s, 20s?
This was 1920s. I couldn't find anything specifically about it being changed, so it might have been. But anyway, by the time he was 18, he did not have his parents around anymore.
Did he kill them? Dear God.
No, they just...
Claire?
No, this is not a murder story.
It could be. Crossover.
Crossover. It was the 1920s. People died a lot then. I'm pretty sure both of his parents died from illness. Anyways, this is not the important part of my story by any means. So anyway, he had a lot of money, and during his lifetime, he was considered one of the most financially successful individuals in the entire world.
I would be too if my daddy gave me a lot of money.
And like I said, he was 19 when he gained all of his wealth.
Fun.
So he kind of first did the filmmaking thing, but when his movies saw success there, he began pursuing aviation. In 1938, Howard Hughes broke the record for the fastest time flying around the world. So he flew around the world in 3 days, 19 hours, and 17 minutes.
That's so fun.
I know, right?
That's so cool. Good for him.
He loved planes.
Gotta love something.
Like, these are only, like, the very, like, peak highlights of his life. Like, there is so much more. I'm just trying to paint, like, a broad spectrum of what his life was.
He seems kind of cool.
In 1938, the same year after he had broken the record, the Houston airport was renamed after him because he broke that record. But then they kind of took it back because people protested the airport being named after someone that was alive.
No shade.
So jumping back a little bit, by 1929, Hughes was divorced from his wife, but that left him free to date women such as Ava Gardner, Katharine Hepburn, Ginger Rogers, and Rita Hayworth. He dated.
Wow. Good. Nice.
Yes. So here's that crossover moment you were kind of wanting. In 1936, Howard struck and killed a pedestrian in his car. The pedestrian was Gabriel Myers.
Oh my gosh. What was he doing? Not the pedestrian. He was fucking walking.
Howard decided it was a good idea to get behind the wheel of a car after drinking. It's not a good idea. Don't drink and drive.
Don't fucking drink and drive. It's not a fucking joke, and it's not. You're not cool. You're a fucking loser.
Yes. Like I said, Howard had a lot of money, and a doctor that night said that Howard had been drinking but was not drunk. And his lawyer claimed habeas corpus pending the coroner's report. And so I tried to look up what habeas corpus meant, and the way I understand it is that the prisoner, being Hughes, was unlawfully detained, and that triggers a court hearing.
Why would he be unlawfully detained?
Basically, they were claiming that the initial arrest was not unlawful. And while waiting for the coroner's report, the witness changed his story from saying Howard was driving erratically to saying Gabriel, the victim, moved in front of the car. Everything I read heavily alluded to a lot of money being thrown at this situation.
That sounds all right.
Yeah. And at the coroner's jury, Hughes was found not guilty. And the coroner's jury is when the coroner convenes a group of individuals to assist in determining both the identity of the victim and the cause of death. That is that part of his life.
Just part.
In 1953, Howard Hughes launched the Howard Hughes Medical Institute. And as of 2008, it's one of the largest private organizations dedicated to biological and medical research.
That's pretty neat.
I was mentioning it earlier. He decided to open it because of his parents' untimely deaths.
Aw, what an up and down guy, man. He's giving me a whole bunch of emotions here.
Ultimately, a lot of highs, some very deep lows.
Yeah.
No, because we don't all kill someone.
We don't fucking kill people, you're right. Even on an accident.
Even on an accident.
But you know why? Because you don't fucking drink and drive. Okay, so
We don't. Are you ready for a fucking zig when you thought I was gonna zag?
yes,
He also has ties to the Richard Nixon family and the Watergate scandal.
I quit. I'm quitting. What am I quitting? I haven't decided yet, but I'm saying I'm quitting. Why, Claire? You couldn't lead with that one, Claire.
I decided to kind of go in chronological order. I say that as I said things very out of order, but so
What did he do?
let's get into it.
What the fuck did he do?
Like I said, it was just ties.
Okay. Okay, go into it.
So Nixon's brother received a loan from Howard soon before the 1960 election.
Seems fine enough.
Yeah, and basically because of that connection between Howard and his brother and all sorts of other illicit behaviors, it is speculated that the connection was motive for the Watergate break-in. At Watergate, they had some evidence tying illicit behaviors to Nixon and Hughes, and so Nixon, that is said to be part of the motive of Watergate, allegedly.
Bitch, what the fuck? That is so sus.
Mm-hmm.
What the heck? Illicit behaviors. Let's rewind a little bit so that my brain can imagine this the correct way. So, Watergate.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying that there was some type of form of media that portrayed Hughes and Nixon in a less than stellar image. That's part of the reason for Watergate.
So it wasn't Richard Nixon, it was Donald Nixon, Richard's brother.
Okay. Okay.
And his brother received a $205,000 loan from Howard Hughes. And basically, it had to deal with like Nixon wanting to, Donald Nixon wanting to collect intelligence for his brother in preparation for the election. And just kind of like a lot of like just money trading hands to find out information about the election.
I see.
That may have motivated it.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. But it's all kind of like loosely tied. You know, like it's there.
There's just not enough proof literally at all to say anything.
Yeah. So before I kind of talk about the later years of his life, I just want to, like, as I mentioned before, this is just like a kind of a small fraction of his life. And he really lived like an incredible and like almost unbelievable life. He set a ton of records in the aviation community, was able to produce, have a medical institution, you know.
He did a lot.
Later in his life, he was kind of known as an eccentric guy and somewhat of a recluse. And I'm going to say a big caveat. Everything I'm saying is alleged. And based off just other reports I read.
Okay.
Apparently his kind of reclusive behavior was in part because of worsening OCD and because of chronic pain that he suffered from a plane crash, and apparently he was becoming deaf as he got older.
Aww.
Yeah. He had OCD and it was apparently pretty severe. It was reported that every night for dinner he would have a medium rare New York strip steak, a salad, and a small side of peas. And small peas. And if the peas were too big, he would push them aside. For months at a time, he would lock himself into an editing room in a studio where he would write memos to his age, and he would just often watch movies just naked.
It happened.
So then he moved into a hotel room in Beverly Hills where he would just sit, again, naked with a pink napkin over his privates and watch movies. And this was reportedly because he had allodynia, which causes causes pain for things that typically aren't painful, hence the not wearing clothes. Wearing clothes was wearing clothes were causing pain. There were a lot of other reports that I don't really feel comfortable reporting on, just a lot of kind of crappy behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And again, but he was isolating himself in this hotel room, so a lot of these reports are in fact unconfirmed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was first reported in 1958 that Howard had reclusive behaviors, and reports of his behavior only got more severe as the years went on. And in 1958, that was the last time he had spoken to the press. Now, kind of, we get into the story of the autobiography, which begins in early 1971. Clifford Irving approaches the publishing company McGraw-Hill, saying that he had obtained permission from Howard Hughes to write a tell-all biography about Hughes. Clifford got the idea of writing this autobiography of Howard after reading an article published about him in Newsweek titled The Case of the Invisible Billionaire, and that was written in December of 1970. Clifford had published multiple other books with McGraw-Hill. His third book was titled Fake, and that was published in 1969, and that tells the story of Hungarian art forger Elmre de Hoy.
Mm-hmm.
And both Clifford and Elmre were in the Orson Welles documentary for Fake in 1974. Which, have you ever watched that?
I have not.
So I actually watched that in film school. Like, that is one we talk about a lot when we watch documentaries. And it falls under the personal... It's a weird movie. Like, it is weird. Like, it's a documentary, but it's also Orson Welles, and it's classified as a personal essay. So in the movie, Clifford was quoted saying, "All the world loves to see the experts and the establishments made a fool of, and anyone likes to feel that those who set themselves up as experts are really as gullible as anyone else." And Clifford's relationship with Elmre is what inspired him to write this Howard Hughes autobiography. So in his initial communications with the publisher, Clifford said that he had sent a copy of the book Fake to Hughes, and then Howard responded to Clifford in a thank you note and praised the work and praised how sympathetic he was to Elmre, the art forger in the book. The publisher gave Clifford a $750,000 advance on his autobiography of Howard Hughes. This was in the 1970s. Did you say something before?
That was a lot of money.
Life magazine also gave him $250,000 because they intended to publish excerpts of the book that would become known as the autobiography of Howard Hughes. So in all, he received $1 million in advance of this book.
Wow.
Dell, the computer company, bought the paperback rights for the book and paid $400,000 for it. So he had $1.4 million in advance of this book.
Oh my gosh. You better write a good freaking book, my guy.
Yes. And so again, this was happening in 1971, which was over 10 years after the last time Howard was seen in public. That was part of all of this, was Howard had not been seen in public. And so they just kind of believed that he had the rights to it. So Clifford had a co-author and a researcher working on this book named Richard Sukind, and together they researched Howard's life. Clifford would travel across Central America and the Caribbean to meet with Howard Hughes and interview him. Again, it was all reported that Howard was just having his own vibes in a hotel room during these times. And so, kind of as I've alluded to, Clifford never actually had the rights to write this book.
I knew it. I figured.
The Washington Post said, quote, "Mr. Irving assumed that Hughes had become so reclusive and private that he would rather stay silent than come forward and deny that the book was real." So basically, Clifford took advantage of the fact that Howard had become reclusive and just assumed that he would rather stay private than come forward.
Did he assume wrong? Did Howard come forward?
I will get into it later, but he sure as shit did.
Ooh, okay.
So, as I mentioned above, he had a writing partner, Richard, and they would take turns interviewing each other, and they would act as Howard, creating false interviews. During the times he was traveling across Central America, he was often seeing his mistress, Nina Van Pollandin, and he would place international calls to his publisher to sell his story further. Clifford was in fact married at the time his book sold, and his wife was involved in the scheme because she traveled with fake passports and would deposit the money into a Swiss bank account. And she made the deposit as an H.R. Hughes. It's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
That's bad. That's illegal.
Uh-huh. They would transcribe conversations and they would pretend to be describing Howard's relationship with Ernest Hemingway. Clifford studied Howard's handwriting so he could forge letters from Hughes in support of the book. And Clifford even appeared on 60 Minutes in an attempt to convince skeptics of the authenticity of this book.
Is that on YouTube somewhere?
I've not tried to look for it.
It'd be kind of cool to watch. It's like, if you're going to take effort to fake it, why don't you find him? Why don't you find him and use the effort to find him and ask him actually?
It's not that they couldn't find him, because his behavior was being reported. It was just that he was so reclusive that he wouldn't confirm any of it, wouldn't respond to any of this behavior because of his kind of deteriorating mental state.
Mm-hmm. I don't blame him. He was tired of people. I get it.
So this book was sold in December of 1970. And by the end of 1971, the lawyers had had enough of Clifford's story and declared that the book, Howard's lawyers had declared that this book was fraudulent. But again, because of this kind of isolated behavior, people still believed that the lawyers were lying and it wasn't Clifford lying. And people kind of just thought that Howard had agreed to an interview, but then changed his mind and was trying to cover his tracks. The publishers even stood by Clifford. Clifford even took a polygraph test to confirm the authenticity of this book. That test showed inconsistencies but no lies. It was in 1972, before the book was published, that it all kind of fell apart. The mistress, Nina, announced that she had been with Clifford during some of the dates that he was, quote, interviewing Howard. And then the Swiss bank investigators were able to link the bank accounts back to Clifford's wife, not Hughes. And I mentioned before, the account was deposited under H.R. Hughes, and the investigators realized that that was a Helga R. Hughes. Helga was just Clifford's wife with a fake passport.
Oh, geez.
And as you kind of were asking about earlier, Hughes did in fact break his silence after there were doubts about what his representative said. He did a telephone conference with 7 journalists, and that was televised. Clifford claimed that it was an imposter on the phone, but by this point it was clear that Clifford was the one lying.
Nice.
Clifford and his co-author, Richard, and his wife, Edith, were each charged with and pled guilty to charges of grand larceny, conspiracy to defraud via mail in state court. Clifford also pled guilty to conspiracy in federal court. Clifford was charged with 2.5 years in prison.
Uh-oh.
And he just served 1.5 years of that.
Mm-hmm.
Richard was sentenced to 6 months in jail and served 5 months. Edith served and was sentenced in both United States courts and the Switzerland courts.
Nice.
So in her U.S. sentence was 2 years, and she served 2 months of it before it was suspended, but then immediately after her release, she went back to Switzerland, where she served 16 months of another 2-year sentence. They also returned what remained of the money from the publishers.
Mm-hmm.
In 2012, The book was published as an ebook titled Clifford Irving's Autobiography of Howard Hughes.
Nice.
Which, like, I kind of want to read, but I also don't want to give him money to read it, you know? And over the years, Clifford was quoted saying several different things about what his motive was. One was, quote, "The whole Hughes affair has been a venture into the unknown, a testing of myself, a constant gauntlet of challenges and responses," which you made your gauntlet there.
Yeah, I'm going to need you to take some ownership.
Mm-hmm. And he still doesn't, because the other quote I have about this was, "I had never realized I was committing a crime. I had thought of it as a hoax." So we need to have a conversation.
Honey, do we got to talk about it? How dumb you are.
I think we do.
Men, am I right? Ladies.
Yes, ma'am. And that, my friend, is the story of Howard Hughes and the Howard Hughes autobiography.
Cheers. That was weird.
Watergate just shows up in the middle of it.
We ended up with a guy named Clifford, and honestly, I'm being real with you, the entire time, I was thinking of Clifford the Big Red Dog, and that made it a lot more funny.
Surprise! Clifford the Big Red Dog is responsible for Watergate.
That's the title.
Yes.
Good job. That was weird. I'm gonna have weird dreams about that, I have a feeling.
Too, because I feel like I did these notes like over a period of like 2 sittings, like really late at night, and so I kind of forgot it all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I damn sure did not remember Watergate was going to show up in the middle of this.
It's a fun surprise.
It really was.
Oh no, I'm so tired.
Me too.
I will be falling asleep after we hang up.
I don't know, I kind of feel like I have an adrenaline rush, so I might be painting. I have a paint by number right now.
What is it? What is it?
It is like European canal.
A water scene, perhaps?
It is, but it has like European buildings on it, and it reminds me of when I was in Switzerland.
That's fun and relaxing.
So, if you want to get to our website, which is fully updated with all of our other episodes, you can go to tinyurl.com/bfguidemm. Our link tree, which has everything else we're on, which is Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and it shows all the places you can listen to us, is Linktree, which is linktr.ee/bfguide2mm. Follow us.
Please.
I'm gonna try and start posting more like pictures of us editing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so the way I've been doing our pictures, bud, is just canva.com, CANVA. Okay, we can talk about it another time.
I love you so much. I will not remember it, and I'll feel bad about it.
We can talk about it when we're about ready to post, but I made us a Canva portrait or like account.
Cute.
And so that way we can make other cute graphics.
Yay.
But
I'm gonna have fun. Oh gosh, one day I want you to teach me how to do graphics because I want to learn.
Yeah, Canva is a really easy way.
Yay. Okay, I'm excited.
But yeah, okay. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Recommend us to a friend, please.
Email us, please. We're not begging, but
also we are.
We're not above it. Okay. It's bedtime for Caroline.
Be good.
Be safe.
Wear a mask.
Wear a fucking mask.